Whether you are a fan of hard sci-fi or soft sci-fi, you're in the right place because we have recommendations. Hello, BookTube. I'm Jonathan, and today I'm joined by Whitney from the secret source of Storycraft. Whitney, do you prefer hard or soft sci-fi?
Oh, that's such a hard question, Jonathan.
I'll put you on the spot right off the rip.
Immediate. Well, I gotta say I'm a big speculative fiction fan. So I'm gonna say I lean a little bit more towards the soft sci-fi.
Soft sci-fi. Okay. I love my hard sci-fi. Alistair Reynolds, he's my guy. Kurt Vonnegut, definitely much softer sci-fi. He's also my guy. So I am interested. I've been talking a bit about hard sci-fi, I feel like, a bit on the channel recently. So I'm going to take care of the soft. And I believe you have some hard sci-fi recommendations that you think I might not have read yet. So I'm very much looking forward to those.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me on your channel. And I have to say, I've been a long-time watcher of your channel. So I wanted to pick some books that maybe you haven't talked about. Because, you know, the obvious choices are going to be things like The Martian and the Three-Body Problem that I know you've talked about a lot on your channel.
Good recommendations.
So they are great. But I figured, you know, if we repeat too much, then it's not very exciting to watch.
Awesome. Well, I very much appreciate that. I'm sure the audience is going to appreciate that. Everyone go subscribe to Whitney's channel. Amazingly well read in sci-fi and an incredible editor as well. Her videos are awesome, so check them out. I will kick us off with our first recommendation, a soft sci-fi book, one I read very recently, and that is A Scanner Darkly by Philip K. Dick. So this book is, I consider it to be soft sci-fi because there is a little bit of technology in here. The book was written in the 70s. The story is set in the near future of the 90s. And there is some things to do with technology that interacts with some of the themes like surveillance and identity. But this book is really about people and substances and addiction. So I found this book to be very funny. The conversation between these kind of neurotic, paranoid characters, it had me giggling throughout the first half of the book. But then kind of the reality sort of starts to set in. Things start to get a little bit weird. And this book really hit me emotionally. And I'm not someone, I'll read a foreword, I'll read an afterword, but it's not something that usually affects my opinion or experience of a book. The afterword in this book hit me like a ton of bricks. It really kind of contextualized the book for me, had a real emotional impact. So it's a little bit dark, but if some of those themes, those subjects interest you, I think that combined with Philip K. Dick's bizarreness, I think could definitely be a worthwhile read.
Wow. Well, you don't hear a lot of people talk about the afterwards being the best part of the book, so that's kind of intriguing. What did you think about this book versus your all-time favorite that you talk about on the channel, Ubik?
So that's a great question. I have read 4 PKD books so far. I would say this is my second favorite. I'd say Ubik's still number 1, but I very much enjoyed this one, and it really made me want to rewatch the film. I watched the film about 10 years ago and absolutely loved it, and has a fantastic art style. And from my memory, I feel like it does a good job of capturing the tone of this book. So I want to rewatch and see if it holds up because I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, that would be an interesting discussion for sure. I have not read this one and I have not seen the video, so I definitely plan on picking up both Ubik and A Scanner Darkly, so I'm very intrigued by this pick.
That's a good plan. All right, Winnie, what is your first hard sci-fi recommendation?
All right, so my first one is one that I don't have a cover for, so
mystery book.
This fancy one. This one is called Saturn Run by John Sanford and Setian. This one is a standalone science fiction where in the near future we see that an alien spaceship has landed on the moon of Saturn. And so we have this worldwide space race to try to get there with the technology that we have today. And so what makes this book hard sci-fi is actually that it spends a significant portion of the book trying to talk about how we could use the technology that we have today to actually create a engine that is going to get us there within the generation that it's going to take to get there before the aliens leave.
Oh, very cool. That sounds like it might maybe appeal to fans of The Martian. That kind of The Martian's just very little bit in the future, so a lot of the science it kind of seems like today's or very attainable kind of science, but with that kind of cool mystery and time, that countdown, that clock that you got to beat with the aliens.
I would agree with you, but it is a lot of heavy into the engineering and the science of putting that engine together. And some of it definitely went over my head because I am not an engineer. So
Yes. I feel like I've read enough sci-fi to like pretend that I know. It's like, yeah, I've read these words before.
yeah, after you read this book, you should get a certificate that says you are a certified almost engineer.
Yeah. A Discord, a YouTube comment engineer. Well, that sounds pretty cool. Saturn Run. I haven't read that one. I'm definitely gonna look it up.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty cool. All right. For my second soft sci-fi recommendation, I went with another classic, Way Station by Clifford D. Simak. So in this one, we follow a character, Enoch Wallace, who is a hermit, a recluse, and he's seemingly ageless. Doesn't ever seem to age, this character. And he lives on a farm, but he is not just a simple farmer. He's actually the keeper of an intergalactic way station. So there's some kind of cool sci-fi stuff going on here with these aliens traveling back and forth, but it's a very human story. A lot of the themes that the book tackles are to do with war and technology and relationships. And I found that while the plot doesn't move at a rapid pace, the sci-fi concepts aren't too crazy, I was really emotionally impacted by the decisions that I think define us as individuals as well as what defines us as a society. So if you like a classic kind of cozy read, some a very like warm, cozy prose from Clifford D. Simak, I think that's another great soft sci-fi option for you.
That is a great pick. It is definitely on the top of my TBR, actually. I think that book actually won a Hugo, didn't it?
Yes. It's there you go. Winner of the Hugo Award. It's on the list. One of my subscribers, Nick, is making his way through every single Hugo Award winner in 2022, which is a pretty impressive 2022 TBR. So Nick, you'll have to let us know where Way Station ranked in your Hugo reading challenge.
Tell us what the best ones were for sure.
Yeah.
How does that compare to the one that you did? I think you also did City by Simak, right?
I have not read City, but I will in 2023. It is on the TBR. This was my first Simak. He won me over with this book. I definitely need to read more.
Okay, well, I'm intrigued. Well, I decided to do one that I know that you have probably read, but I couldn't not put it on the list, and that is Adrian Tchaikovsky's Children of Time.
Yes, let's go.
I am such a Tchaikovsky girl. I really love this series and this book, and if you ever go over to my channel, I just talk about how Tchaikovsky is my main author that I really enjoy. So, what strikes me about this book is I love how he uses evolution as a science to talk about how evolution not only impacted the sentient species, but also impacted their technology and how different it is from our own. It was one of my all-time favorite reads. It's definitely on my top 5 sci-fi books. So
nice. That's high praise. I think deserved, because I thought Children of Time was great for the first 2/3 and then just blew me away in the final third. I liked how, as you said, we kind of follow the evolution of this species, and some of it you can kind of tell that Tchaikovsky's kind of mapped from human history, but then there's also elements that are kind of unique to the spiders, and then kind of how that resolves in sort of an emotionally rewarding way for me. I felt towards the end, I think, phenomenal. So I've only read 2 books by Tchaikovsky, but I need to read more.
Well, he is a particularly good writer because every book you read by him feels like a different author, which is really unique.
So I've read Children of Time and Shards of Earth. I've already purchased one for next year. I'm not going to reveal what it is, but I want you to tell me what you think I should read next.
Okay, so I have to ask, did you like Shards of Earth?
I love Children of Time, and I liked Shards of Earth.
Okay. I would probably recommend a little bit of a weird read by him. I would actually recommend Guns of the Dawn.
Oh, that's fantasy. That's fantasy.
It's not fantasy. It is fantasy. It's very similar to fantasy. Yes. Okay, fine. You win. Okay, then Cage of Souls. I would do Cage of Souls.
Okay, interesting. I know Andrew from Andrew's Wizardly reads. I believe he likes Guns Dawn. Is that what it's called? Guns Dawn?
Guns of the Dawn, yeah.
Guns of the Dawn. Yes. No, he's a fan of that one. I might check it out in the future because I'm a fan of Tchaikovsky, but we're focusing on sci-fi for now.
All
Soft sci.
Right. You win. I'm sorry.
No, you're all right. Soft sci in particular for today. My third recommendation is, it's a bit bright. There you go. Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes. So another classic. This one, I think you could read without even necessarily thinking it's sci-fi. So it's a good one to kind of sneak in for friends or family of yours that don't read sci-fi and kind of then tell them afterwards it's sci-fi and trick them into reading a bit more sci-fi. So anyway, Charlie, he is a man with low intelligence, and he undergoes an experimental surgery to improve his intelligence after it was successfully performed on a mouse. But when the mouse starts to regress, the question becomes, will the same happen to Charlie, and what can he do to stop it? So this book is very character-focused, and it has a really interesting writing style where the story is told through journal entries. So not only do we see Charlie's progression based on the plot, what happens in the story, we can actually see the changes based in how he writes. His vocabulary improves, his grammar improves. And this was such an emotional roller coaster for me. I cannot think of a time. All right, I'm finally admitting it. I've denied on the channel many times that I cried at the end of this book. I cried, okay? I cried.
Everyone did.
Everybody cries at the end of Flowers for Algernon. So I gave this book to my mum, who is not much of a sci-fi reader. She loved it. I pretty much only read sci-fi. I love it. So I think this is going to appeal to a pretty wide range of readers.
I would honestly tell people too that I'm not a person who really likes to cry or feel sad. You know, like I'm not a crier. Yeah. But that book, it just has some sort of connection to what it means to be human almost. You know, like it really just attaches to something for everyone in that book. That is a cheat because everyone likes that book, Jonathan. Like You're going to win with that one. Everyone loves it.
It's funny that you mentioned that you don't like to cry, because I think when I think of some of my favorite pieces of artwork, whether it's books, movie, TV shows, a lot of my favorite things, like the all-time favorite things, are things that made me cry. But I don't seek out things that I think will make me cry. I don't like it when you try to make me cry. Like, you know, you'll see those network dramas where you're like, get the tissues out for this week's episode of so-and-so. I'm just like, nah, that's not for me. But if something earns it, they genuinely get me to cry, then it goes straight to the top of my list.
Well, I think that especially Flowers for Algernon, it's because it has that connection to your emotions, but it's not just in that it's sad, it's that it's so beautiful and it's so impactful. It is you at the end of that book. Like it is, you know, you are experiencing it with him, and you know, you just want to like hug the character, you know, like.
Absolutely. Well, there you go. Let's see if Whitney's recommendation is a tearjerker.
Well, after a hug the character book, we need to you know,
serious sci-fi.
Exactly. Now we're gonna go for some hard stuff. So my next recommendation is Werner Vinge, A Fire Upon the Deep. This is it has a sequel, but it could be a standalone if you want it to be. This book, man, I don't even know how to summarize it. It is far spanning. It's very, very futuristic, in which we have development of AI, we have multiple alien species, and this book has some of the coolest aliens, some of the most hard-hitting AI. I mean, he really does encompass a lot in this book. And what makes it science like hard sci-fi is that he plays a lot with this really cool idea in physics, where in order to advance in both our technology and also in our intellect to be able to understand things, you have to be in a different area of space. He calls it the
Yes.
zones of thought. And it's really interesting because without the intro picture that's in the beginning of this book, I feel like I would be a little bit lost. But it's a really cool idea, and I would highly recommend it for people who really like hard sci-fi books and even soft sci-fi books.
Yes. So this is a book I have read, and I think it has some amazing aliens, some amazing sci-fi concept. The zones of thought I think is really, really cool. I think for me, the story and the characters I didn't quite connect to as much as I hoped I would, because I know for some people, some of my people in my Discord server, they love Vinji. Like Vinji's number one. I've heard a lot of people say this is their favorite book. So for me, the expectations were really high. It didn't quite get there, but I think this is one that I might enjoy more on a reread now that I've got a bit more sci-fi under my belt, because it's a bit of a chunker. I think I might be able to kind of tap into some of the things that I missed on the first time around. Not to put you off, if you haven't read a ton of sci-fi, you might still enjoy it. You're probably smarter than me. But I think now that I've read some more sci-fi, I think I definitely need to tackle some more Vinji again in the future.
Well, I would agree with you. I mean, I do have to say, I just recently did a Sci-Fi for Beginners video on my channel, and I probably wouldn't recommend this to somebody who is beginning sci-fi, because it is something where you have to really get into it and have to be able to process, a lot of different things happening at once. And it doesn't really have a character that you connect to, like, emotionally, not like Charlie from Flowers for Algernon.
Yeah.
So that's for sure.
Yeah, I think I like some of the aliens. There's a range of alien species, but some of the aliens in particular, I think I liked more than the people.
Yeah, they're
but
cool.
You guys will have to read it and decide for yourself. Okay, my fourth recommendation, one that's a little bit more modern, and written in the 80s, we have Replay by Ken Grimwood. So this is a kind of Groundhog Day style story. A character in his 40s dies, he wakes up and he's 18 again. 25 years earlier in his life, he's where he was when he was 18. He lives his life again, gets to the same age, and then dies again. So rather than being trapped in the same day over and over again, like Bill Murray in Groundhog Day, our main character kind of relives about a 25-year period of his life. And so it is more of a soft sci-fi than hard sci-fi, because it's less about what is the quantum thing that folds the time space to cause the time travel. It's not so much about the time travel itself. It's more about what would you do with that opportunity, and then being stuck in that loop, how would that affect you mentally, emotionally, your view on relationships, your view on the world, your view on spirituality. And it was very interesting to put myself in that position. Whitney, you mentioned kind of like feeling like you were there with Charlie. This is definitely a book that I can feel like you can connect with the main character, or if not connect, sort of place yourself in that position, and kind of they're very interesting kind of hypotheticals to play out. So if you like time travel, time loop stories, Palm Springs with what's his name? I'm forgetting his name now. It'll come to me. The guy from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. How am I forgetting? Whitney, help me out here.
I've never seen this one. I was thinking like Edge of Tomorrow type movies.
Yes, that's a good comparison. It's less actiony than that one, and kind of less comedic than the one. How can we not? He's in Hot Rod. He's in Lonely Island. He's in Andy Samberg. Oh my goodness. Anyway, Palm Springs, a movie with Andy Samberg, kind of has a similar thing. Very funny. Watch that if you like. But really, the main point is to recommend the book Replay by Ken Grimwood.
Well, I think that's a really awesome recommendation. I've heard you recommend it and several other people, and I just haven't gotten to it yet. I would also say that that's one of the things that I like the most about time travel, is that it's kind of a wonderful veiled attempt at trying to come to terms with our mistakes and what it would be like to be able to redo them. I think that's also what's interesting about VR, if you ever read any books on VR. because you get multiple attempts, like a
Yes.
video game. If you keep dying, you can redo it again.
Yeah. Yeah. 200 attempts later, I finally learned
That's me
the
playing
route to
video
take.
games because I'm, real good at it.
Yeah. Hey, persistence. Persistence is the
Yes,
key.
yes, exactly. It's all about the journey, right?
Yeah. I like it. All right,
All
Whitney,
right.
what is your fourth hard sci-fi recommendation?
All right. So my fourth one is one that I actually just finished this week. And it is also published in 2022. So I'm really excited
Nice.
about it. It's actually on order. It's coming to my house. So I'm going to show the little question mark again.
Yeah, mystery book.
Yeah, the mystery book. It's a beautiful cover, but it's called A Mountain in the Sea by Ray Naylor. And this is a first-time debut novel. And this book is quintessentially a first contact novel, except it deals with the sentience of octopus.
Okay.
And it's a really interesting read. It has a lot of discussion about what this means for the broader community of humans, what this means for humanity in general, and how we're going to handle this. And then on an individual character level, how are our main characters going to communicate with something that doesn't even have ears to hear or a voice to speak with?
Right.
And the thing that makes this a hard sci-fi for my list here is that this book delves very deep into anatomy and physiology of octopus, and it very much follows the idea of form follows function. And so because we know the anatomy and neuroanatomy of an octopus, we are able to potentially use that to communicate. And it gets really in depth with the scientific anatomy of the octopus, and it's an amazing read. I highly recommend this one.
That sounds very cool. I like the title, A Mountain in the Sea. And great year for the octopus. You had that documentary.
Yeah.
What was it called? Did you see that one?
I have not.
I'm good.
Look
Never
it
done
up.
this on one of these videos before. I'm Googling something. My octopus teacher. Actually, it came out a while ago.
I did see My Octopus Teacher on Netflix.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
My wife's family was watching, and they're like, "We're watching a documentary about an octopus," and I'm like, I mean, I like octopi or whatever they call, but that's not a great pitch. It doesn't sound interesting. And I sat down and just within 5 minutes, I was hooked. I was like, "What a great documentary about this guy and an octopus."
Who knew octopus could be so stimulating? And you know who knew was Adrian Tchaikovsky, because Children of Ruin has octopus. Just saying.
So if you guys are riding that octopus hype, get on board A Mountain in the Sea. That sounds pretty cool.
You're gonna have to check it out, Jonathan. I think you would really, really like it.
Yeah, I think I would dig that. All right, moving on to my fifth and final soft sci-fi recommendation, kind of matching the background here. We have The Sirens of Titan by Kurt Vonnegut. So Kurt Vonnegut, easy to recommend soft sci-fi with Kurt Vonnegut. Some of his books are so light sci-fi, they're not even really sci-fi at all. This one definitely is sci-fi, though. Sirens of Titan is a world-hopping adventure. You follow kind of a strange cast of characters. You've got the richest man in the country. You've got a dog. You've got a robot that was made by aliens. And a lot is packed into this book. It's not a very long book, probably less than 300 pages, but Kurt Vonnegut really kind of like throws the kitchen sink of ideas at this book and emotions at this book, and the things that he explores to do with kind of free will and omniscience, technology, war, a place within the universe, I really connected with. There is a chapter in this book where he describes an alien life form called the Harmoniums. And it's possibly my favorite thing that I've ever read. I reread it about once a year, and we got the tears going on this episode, because that's something else that kind of can get a little bit of H2O out of Jonathan. I think it's honestly one of the most beautiful things that one of my favorite writers has ever written. So
Oh.
if you like some kind of sci-fi weirdness, but we're kind of bouncing all over the place, and because it's really just about the themes and the people and the ideas and just being able to connect to one another, classic Kurt Vonnegut. Check out Sirens of Titan.
Well, that one is also on my TBR, actually. Of all the things that Kurt Vonnegut has written, if you read the back covers, that one is the one that is the most interesting for me. For some reason, on the back of the cover, it sounds the most sci-fi, I guess, for me.
Yeah, I would say, off the top of my head, the Sirens of Titan and Slaughterhouse-5 are probably the two most clearly actually sci-fi.
Mhm.
And Slaughterhouse-5 is kind of a bit heavy, a bit sad, whereas this one's like a little bit all over the place, absurd, still a bit sad, but like funny and weird. And so, yeah, I think that those are good places for a sci-fi fan to start with Vonnegut.
Yeah. I can't wait to read that one.
Yeah. All right, Whitney, what is your fifth and final hard sci-fi book for us?
All right, my fifth one, you can tell I have a little bit of an older cover here. This is Ringworld. I don't know if you can see this here, by Larry Niven.
Nice.
Okay, so even though this cover is really old and not very interesting, kind of like the Hyperion cover.
No. All right. I'm calling.
No.
I'm calling a timeout here. You guys, I need your help.
All right.
Whitney doesn't like the cover, the mass market paperback cover of Hyperion. Okay, she says she's watched the channel for a while. I don't know if she watched my top 10 sci-fi covers of all time, where Hyperion, literally #1, my favorite cover ever.
Jonathan, I think you have what's inside the book confused with what's on the outside of the book. Because Hyperion is an amazing book. You should definitely read it. It's like I think it's my #1, honestly, best sci-fi book of all time. And the only reason that I didn't read it earlier is because that cover is awful. I mean, if you put like a sexy woman next to the Shrike in that cover, and you could just make it like romance fantasy, it's like an embarrassing cover. It's awful.
Oh, the colors, the pink, the blue. Look, you're talking to someone that literally picked a pink and blue background for this very video.
This is a pretty background.
I love the colors. I love the Shrike, one of the most iconic sci-fi characters of all time.
And what's with the ship in the back? What is that? I know they're pilgrims, but it has nothing to do with what's in the book. Why?
They're sailing towards a fate that you don't want to deal with that Shrike. It's foreboding.
Dune gets like 1,000 covers. Why can Hyperion not get at least a couple of better covers?
Because they nailed it the first time.
No, they did not. You can't tell me that Fall of Hyperion is any good either. It was awful.
What? Oh my goodness. All right.
Well, I guess we're fighting now. I don't know.
I need you guys to go to the comments and I want you to say Team Hyperion or Team Not Hyperion.
No, that is untrue. I am for Hyperion, just not for that cover.
All right. Team Hyperion cover. Team Not Hyperion cover.
That's right. Team redo Hyperion cover. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So back to my book here, Ringworld. I'm not sure if you've read this one, Jonathan, or not, but
I have not.
This book is very much a classic science fiction novel, and it is actually a pretty easy read, which is one of the things I really wanted to have on my list for folks, so they're not all running for cover from hard science fiction. But this book is about the humans are now spacefaring, and we discover a solar system that has a big metal artificial structure, a ring, in it. And it's huge, It's bigger than a world, and of course we have to go explore it. And we do so with the help of some alien species that are really cool also. And the majority of this book takes place in exploring this ring and how it is actually technologically possible for even the science that occurred in this time period. Which is interesting. Now, whether or not they have the availability to make it is a different thing, but it was hard science fiction in terms of it is actually physically possible to build one of these, but it is a fun read in terms of the aliens and the exploration of this and trying to discover why someone would build something like this. It was a good read.
Very cool. I have not read that one. I have read The Moat in God's Eye by Larry Niven and Jerry Pournelle, and
Haven't read that one.
I think one of the best first contact stories, the Motis, some of the most interesting aliens I've ever read. Felt like the story ran out a little bit of steam towards the back end, but we'll focus on the positives. So I do need to check out Ringworld by Larry Niven. Would you say that comes under the umbrella of Big Dumb Object? Is that is that a sort of genre?
Yes. Probably Big Dumb Object, yes. I think that's correct.
I don't. Yeah, some of you may be familiar. I think it was kind of a bit of a popular style, maybe in like the 70s. It's like there's something big and weird in the sky, and we got to check it out, and we can't communicate with it. We don't know what it is.
I mean, Saturn Run would definitely fit that, but so would I think Rendezvous with Rama.
Yeah,
although I
Rama
haven't
is what I was
read it,
thinking of.
so I can't recommend it. Although I have to read it before the movie comes out, because Denis Villeneuve is making it, so it must be good, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm a big Arthur C. Clarke fan. Childhood's End's my favorite, but I also very much like Rama, and yeah, big Denis Villeneuve fan. I'm gonna watch everything he makes. So yeah, opening night, Rendezvous with Rama. Whitney and I will be there.
Ooh, exciting! Well,
Yeah, we got to get an invite. If anybody from whatever the studio is that's making it, send two Sci-Fi booktubers 2 tickets, please.
Yeah, I'm sure we could definitely get a couple more people on board with that.
Yes. Yeah. If you need help marketing that your massive blockbuster film,
Yeah,
I'm sure we've got some pull with the audience.
Clearly. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, there you go. Those are 10 sci-fi books, 5 soft sci-fi, 5 hard sci-fi for you to check out. Let us know if you've read any of them, what your thoughts on them, or which ones sounded interesting, which you might pick up. And go to Whitney's channel. Thank her for joining us. I really appreciate all those recommendations. There's a lot of those sound very fun indeed.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on again. And I can't wait to see whether people are on Team Hyperion redo cover team.
Oh, I'm feeling good about this one. It's a great cover. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. You can find more sci-fi content down here, Sci-Fi Alliance, Whitney's channel. Go click all the buttons.